Hello and good evening. This is Gary A. Swaby, and today we are here to talk about BMF after seeing the very first episode of season two. And I'm here with Mr. Rich Bailey Jr. How are you doing, Richard?
Doing good, Gary. What's up, listeners and viewers?
So, indeed, and I'm also here with Miss Dana Abercrombie.
Hello,
How are you
everyone.
doing?
Excited to talk about the BMF. I'm doing good. This is refreshing.
Good, good. So how have you two been? It's a new year now, you know. You two been all right? How you doing, Dana? Been up to much?
Still the same terrible person I was last year.
Oh, that's lies. You're not terrible, man. That's cap. You're
Baseball
a
cap.
wonderful person. So we gotta change that
Oh, the
intro.
lie. Thank you. I shall. No, I'm doing good. Uh, excited for the new year.
Good, good. And how about you, Richard? What you been up to?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm actually visiting family right now in Boston. Uh, we'll be going back to Atlanta at some point, but yeah, I'm looking forward to this year. There's a ton of things to cover in terms of video games as well as entertainment shows. So definitely, I hope people stay tuned to this channel because it's a ton of things we're going to be talking about here throughout the year.
Yeah, indeed. And speaking of the channel and everything, I'm sure you've all realized by now that we've made some changes. We've introduced two new channels. We are currently on the entertainment channel, but we still have the main channel where we will be posting content still, you know, entertainment and gaming. And we also have another channel which is focused entirely on gaming. So, the links for all of those are down below in the description box, so you can head over to them and see the content for yourself. But we thank you for checking out this content, and please, do hit the like button, leave your comments, and subscribe to this channel if you do enjoy this discussion today about BMF. It's very important. Dana, you were going to say something?
No, that was me yawning.
Oh, okay. So you're tired today. Okay. I'm sure this discussion is going to wake you up though, because we have some serious things that we need to discuss right now. Like after seeing this episode and what happened, so I can't wait to get some of your thoughts. So, we're just going to go around the board quickly and give our thoughts on the episode. Just a little review of what we think, and then we're going to have a big discussion at the end of this where we talk about the guy in Dana's name, Lamar. He's back. He's back and he is alive. So we're gonna have a discussion about that and how Lamar, is going to affect this season. Now, as you probably know by now, this is a spoiler discussion. So if you haven't watched the episode yet, please go and watch it now. Stop what you're doing, pause this, watch BMF season two, episode one, and then come back after and hear what we've got to say. So let's get into our review. I guess I'll do the honor and go first here just to set it off. So the episode is called Family Dinner, by the way. Um, and that was a fitting name because we kind of get the sense in this episode that the family is kind of in disarray a little bit. Obviously Meech he's still living this fast lifestyle, trying to get in the drug game, trying to land a new plug and everything. And uh, T is actually, he's at the end of the last season, he kind of got out of the drug game. He told Meech that he didn't want to be involved in it anymore. He got the money from his accident in the first season, and now he's trying to start his own driving company. And his dad is kind of proud of him for doing that. We see in this episode he actually got his license, I believe. So now he can officially start that business. But there's various things going on with the family in this episode because we see that T he's actually got eyes for someone else, an actress that we know very well, actually, because she's been in another show that we talk about, Miss Lala Anthony, So he's got eyes for her in this. And I guess this kind of gives him some sort of desire to cause a conflict with his girlfriend, because we see later in the episode where he overhears that the mother kind of talked to his girlfriend and told her to give T a baby and stuff. So he was kind of upset that they're trying to manipulate him into doing what they want and stuff like that. And he kind of blew up at that. But we know that he's kind of got eyes now for Lala's character. Does anyone remember her name, by the way? I can't remember the character name. I just call her Lala.
Honey Nut Cheerios.
Say it again.
Was a Honey Nut Cheerios.
Oh, that joke. Honey Nut Cheerios.
Oh no, that is a good joke, but no, yeah, her name is I believe it's Markeisha or something like that.
Markeisha. So
yeah.
It's basically the same name as Power, Keisha, right? Wasn't that her name?
Lakeisha.
Yeah, Lakeisha in
Remember
Power.
Lakeisha?
Lakeisha in Power and Markeisha in BMF. So
the bullet hit her so hard she traveled back to the 80s.
It literally is the same character, but
face got blown up.
So he's got eyes for her. So I'm guessing throughout this season he's going to try and make her his lady. She is married, of course. She showed him the ring and everything. So and even Meech saw him looking at Lala during the basketball game or whatever. So that's kind of hilarious how he was thirsting for her, very hard in this episode. But yeah, so that's one thing. And then you also have the the little sister who's she's kind of growing up. She's got an attitude now, and you see the parents, particularly the mother, she had a little moment of conflict with her. So I think that is going to lead to something deeper in this episode. And then the parents themselves, the mother and the father, they I think they have some brewing conflict coming in this episode, because it seems to be about money, I guess. I don't know. I'm not sure if that's the whole reason why, but you see the first scene where they're at the diner and the mother's kind of like looking at other people, other couples, and how they're spending money and their kind of lifestyle that they have and everything. And then later in the episode, we see that the father wants to be intimate a little bit, but she's not really into it. And I think another thing that sparked this is because of Meech, because of the dealings with Meech and how they handled that. Because the mother still loves Meech and wants him to be around, but obviously the father isn't too proud about what Meech is doing. So I'm interested to see how that plays out also, because I do love the chemistry that those two actors have on screen, like the mother and the father. And I feel like, them two having conflict is going to be very entertaining and make for some interesting moments. And another thing that I liked in this episode, so Meech, he's very focused. He has like a goal in this episode where he wants to land the new plug, which is K9. And we see that he goes to Vegas to get a new supply of drugs, to traffic it back to Detroit. And what I like is that they show that there's a whole whole world out there, a whole economy of drug dealers and traffickers. And they show actually Freeway Rick, who was a very notable drug dealer around that time in the 80s. And he is actually the character that Snowfall was based on, Freeway Rick. So he actually, they did a little Easter egg. They put that character in this episode, just to show, this was around the same time. And I believe that may have happened in real life, where those two characters actually came across each other briefly. Because back in the 80s, like, you had some of the biggest, most notable drug dealers. Like, you had Alpo and Supreme in New York City and everything. Like, this was all around the same time when crack was exploding and stuff like that. So it was pretty cool that they made that reference. And then I liked watching Meech's goal play out throughout this episode and the various conflicts that he had going on. And the part where they actually had K9, where this was after the basketball game and they were in the bar. Like, I like the little character quirks that they do, where they had the girl feeding him the food and stuff. Like, it just kind of added to his asshole character. Like, it made him seem like more of an asshole kind of thing. Like, oh, like it makes you want to see him die eventually. Like, you want it to go left with him, because he comes across as such, a big kind of what's the word, like toxic masculinity type of drug dealer. Like, so you kind of want to see his downfall a little bit, and you want to see Meech and T get one over on him. So I can't wait to see where they go with that character, because it seems like they're setting something up with that. I also like that I can't remember the name of the character, but there was the woman who Meech tried to secure as a plug in the last season, and she made an appearance. Go ahead, Rich. What was her name?
Big L. Big L.
Big L. Oh yeah.
Yep.
I can't forget that, because there was a rapper named Big L. So I need to remember
that rapper too.
Yeah. So yeah. And then you had and Dana actually interviewed these characters. You had the detectives, Detective Jin and what's the name of the dude again? Detective. I forgot. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
I was waiting. Yeah. Oh, I was waiting for Richard to chime in.
Oh no, I think you got it, Dana, because I wasn't looking at it.
No, I don't. But... I wasn't looking at the name.
Yeah, but yeah.
But Steve Harris is the actor.
Steve Harris. Yeah, there you go. That character. So I like that they, just let me know the name if you find it. But yeah, I like that those two characters, we kind of see their chemistry like building, developing. Go ahead, Rich.
Detective Bryant.
Bryant.
Yes. That's what I said.
There we go. So yeah, like she had a strong introduction, Detective Jin. Because you had, where they chased down that that member of the 50th Boys, they chased him down and everything. So she had like a strong introduction, and we seem to get a lot of these like buddy cop types in TV shows. Like, we've had a few in like the Power series, but this one seems like it's going to be quite interesting, because she seems like a very kind of strong character, like very intellectual, like she can stand on her own kind of thing. And I don't think she's going to be like annoying like Burke in Raising Kanan. Like, I don't think she's going to be that annoying partner, so I think I can't wait to see how that kind of duo plays out on screen, because I think they're going to take that somewhere good in this show. And then what else? Did I have anything else I wanted to say? Okay, so of course, Lamar being back. We're going to talk more about this later, but I'll just say that, I'm happy about that. Like, I'm happy they decided to utilize that character, because again, in real life, that person is still alive, in real life. He was doing Vlad interviews, recently. So the character is based on is still alive. So it makes sense that they kept the character alive. And he was such a big part. Like, he was so iconic in the first season. So I'm glad that they brought him back. But I will say one thing, because before I knew he was back for sure, like, it was looking like it was going to be a great season even without him. So I'm wondering now that he's back how it's going to play out, because I feel like the show could have been great without him now, because it was kind of building up to be great, the way they were setting up the episode. So now that he is back, it's like they have to do something spectacular now, to kind of top what they did in the first season. So, that's just my thoughts on Lamar. We're going to talk more about it, but I'm going to head over to, to one of you fine folks now to get your review. So, who should I bug here? you know what? Let's go with you first, Dana. I really want to know what your thoughts are. And you've seen, you've had access to
I've
this
seen
for a while, so
I've had access to this for a while, and I've seen multiple episodes. And I will say the Lamar disrespect will not be tolerated. That whole, oh my God, it was great even without him. No, we don't do that here. Okay, Lamar
no,
is
no,
a part of this show. None of this.
it wasn't
He is the
disrespect,
show.
man.
But it was disrespect.
That's my British brother, man.
I was just wondering, if the show was gonna be good without him or something. No, because it was great, but like then he came around, but like it was already good. No, the show is okay. Then you got Lamar, greatness. And I will say that I scrumped the biggest scream when I saw him pop back up because I was already mourning him. I was like, oh, season 2, where are you? I miss you. Rest in peace. And I'm like, oh, he's alive. Yes, Jesus. Um, I'm not going to spoil anything in terms of Lamar, but I will say he is the most effective person on this series for the simple fact that he's Thanos. You know how Thanos had that theory of, wiping out 50% of the population so that we could save the rest of the world and the population itself? That's basically Lamar. Lamar has a goal and he will not stray from that goal no matter what. He will literally come back from the dead to make sure that his goal is accomplished. And that is just something I love seeing because he's that driving force. And he seems to be one of those characters like the Terminator, where we see, remember, with the shotgun and he just comes right back together. That seems to be Lamar. No matter what, bloop, I'm going to pop back up. So I will say that he makes a very exciting season because you don't know what's going to happen. He's like one of those whack-a-moles. We just like, hey, surprise, boom, boom. Hey, what's up? Boom, boom. But you don't know what he's boom, booming about. And I'm not going to spoil anything for that. But just overall, I love his tenacity and his refusal to just say no to things. Another thing that really sticks out to me this season is the dynamic between the mother and the father. We do see it seems like that perfect image of, we were together with the family and the kids. It is slowly unraveling. And it is not just money based. It is a lot of different belief systems that you have. When you certain Christianity, you stick to certain beliefs that you're not supposed to do. We kind of seen that already and not necessarily saying, oh, it's because she's a Christian. We don't want our kids to be drug dealers and have the drug, gangs and different guns. That's not to say that at all. But when you have a certain set of beliefs that may contradict other people in the household, there's a lot of conflict within that. Also, coming from a man's point of view of your son is outperforming you and providing for the family. As a man, how does that feel when your son has to provide for you? So that also constrain a lot of things, and your willingness or unwillingness to grow in both business and as a person, also a way of how you do things. I think what we're going to see is with the dynamic is with the son that ends up running. I forget which one. The son that ends up going straight. He wanted to do the car business with his father. He has different ideologies and different things that he can, that's modern and hip and new, that clashes with the old school that is his father. And what happens when you have two heads that keep clashing? You can get a sense that, he didn't want to listen to what his brother had to say. I don't want to listen to you. I'm my own person. But then you come back to your father and you're starting a business, and it's the same thing of, I got to listen to my dad. Here's what my dad has to say. Nobody's listening to my ideas. I have a way of doing things as well. And so we see that. And that's what I really like with this show is we get to see different dynamics and how relationships may be vastly different from each other, but also at the same time, they can also be the same. I escaped my brother to be my own person. Now with my father, and I'm still up under his wing. And when he says, how do I become my own person? I like that we get the two different sides and the two different brothers. He's the brother who's dealing with the gangs and trying to make the connections, and how he's able to fly on his own. And the son who ends up doing the business with his father, how does he try to fly on his own as well? Really interesting with I was going to say Lakeisha, Markeisha. I like that dynamic. Remember, she is married, so it's different between like, well, we're messing with a guy who belongs to, that's his girlfriend as opposed to that's my wife. That's a whole different thing. And what is a man as a husband going to do to confront this kid who's stepping to my wife? That's a whole nother element. And so that was something that really stuck out to me. And kind of like the third one is I like the family, how they build a family within this show. And I don't mean just with the Flannerys. I mean BMF as a whole, how that comes together to be a family. Now, I don't believe it's going to be apple pie and we're sitting down for dinner every single day. There's going to obviously these things that's going to be dramatized that's much different than what we see with the docu-series. But I do like that element of trying to create a family outside of the family that you're already born into. So I like that how we get to see that. And there is another aspect that I want to talk about, but I don't know whether or not you guys have seen that part yet, so I can't talk about it. But I will say it's whether or not you can trust people who may belong into your family. So that's what I can say.
Oh, whoa, look at you teasing me.
I'm teasing.
Wow.
Nice little tickle over the season.
Wow, now I have to daydream about that and think about what that could mean. But thank you.
And also
everything?
really quickly. No, really quickly, I just wanted to speak upon the police dynamic aspect of this. So we get to see, these are the police of the 80s and the 90s. And where are we? New York? No, we're not in New York City. But anyone knows the policing back in the 80s. Detroit, sorry. The policing back in the 80s and the 90s, period, was a very brutal experience, I think, no matter what state you belong to. So there is a lot of police brutality. And what I appreciate, like you said previously, this is not your cookie cutter. We already seen these policing before. This is they have their own inner motives, but we also get to live with these characters and see the other side of them. But also, they're dealing with the aspect of war on drugs. And remember that mindset and those images of like the police knocking down your homes and slamming you into the ground and the police brutality that followed after that. And they're essentially being able to get away with murder, with literal murder. So we get to see sprinkles of that, and we get to see how different the cops are, compared to the other shows where not Buke, what is her name? I forgot. But anyone, the other ones were like, we're a little nosy, we won't go away. These one are like full force. We may be villains of this show. There's a lot of people who you don't know who are the heroes and who are the villains, and that's what I really like about with how they deal with the police. And then we also get to go and live with them and see another aspect to them. And also, you remember the 80s and 90s, remember the Asian community with the Black community. Remember what happened during that whole riot situation with that girl who was shot by the Asian what was it? The Asian market. It was a long time, but remember, you know what I'm talking about. Y'all are older.
Yeah, the store owner shot a Black kid or something, right?
Right. Yes, it was the Asian store owner who shot the Black kid, and that's what kind of helped to set off the riots. So we get to see a lot of the Black Asian community and what that dynamic could be, especially when we have the police officer who is a female from the Asian community.
Yeah, I do like that because there's like I think even in 2020 there was like a lot of kind of like animosity between like Black culture and Asian culture and stuff. So like I like that showing that the two cultures do get along most of the time, because if you just follow the media, you're going to get a sense that there's conflict between the two cultures, but really we get along fine. It's just those odd cases that you get and they blow them up. But yeah, I do like seeing that diversity in the characters and stuff. And I think because they have such interesting backgrounds, Detective Brian and Detective Jin, I think it's going to make for some good TV with those two. And like you said, these are rougher cops than we're used to seeing, because Detroit, at one time, Detroit was a murder capital. Like, it was Chicago at one point, you know. So that means the cops have to be rough. They have to be as bad as the criminals, and we see that they rough up that one character in this episode. And then you have Detective Bryant, who's he's going after, what's his name? I forgot his name, but it's Meech's right hand man. And that's going to lead to some great stuff later, I think, where he's going to be put under pressure. So yeah, great, excellent point about the cops in the show. But let's go ahead and get some thoughts from Mr. Richard Bailey Jr. now.
So first and foremost, excellent takeaways by both Dana and yourself as always, Gary. Let me start by telling everybody, if you are on the entertainment channel, please do note that Dana has interviewed some of the people that we've been talking about. Charles and Lucille Flannery, which Gary was speaking about earlier. She just published that interview, I believe it was yesterday. And then, of course, she also interviewed the cops as well. So check out those interviews, because there's a lot of information in those interviews. Oh, yeah, the whole cast. Well, there's more interviews coming, but there's saying more interviews coming. Yeah. Well, but just stay tuned for all of that, and definitely check out what she's already posted. So as far as my takeaways, I thought this was an excellent opening season. I mean to say opener for season 2. First and foremost, let me just say what Dana said earlier about Lamar Silas. Yes, we have to acknowledge that he was one of the main drawing points for season 1. So I'm glad that the character is back. I look forward to seeing what happens with the character. But I also want to say this. I think they did a fantastic job in this episode of showing you just how dangerous K9 is. And the fact that, as Gary mentioned earlier, you saw Big L. But in this same episode, you saw that when he started handing out gifts to everybody, he gave Meech a gift of Big L's lips, which implies he killed her. So this is what I'm saying. They want to show you how ruthless this character is. I think they did a fantastic job this episode showing you that. Shooting the guy in broad daylight after the basketball game was over. Yeah, I mean, and this is why I decided that today I'm going to be the BMF fight counselor, because there's a lot of, violence that happened in this episode, and I loved every minute of it. The fight between both of the gangs, when they showed up to the record store, that was hilarious. The dialogue between those characters, that was hilarious. And then, of course, you have the conflict, again, of what's happening when the cops tried to get B-Mickie and the other guy that was a part of that particular team. And, of course, they didn't get B-Mickie. But that's also, that's going to segue into my other takeaway for this episode, is that they got me very interested in seeing what happens with B-Mickie next. Because at the end of the season, it looked as though he already was going to, at some point, have to turn on Meech. So when this episode started, I expected to see more of that. But then you saw that he brushed off all of these things that Bryant was doing until the very end, when Bryant showed up at his place and again reminded him, "You still going to help me get Meech, or you're going down." So I'm very interested to see what happens, because that's why I say, and this is how you know it's a good show, because there's a lot of different story points going on that you want to see how they play out. One thing I will say, and I know that Gary is a huge fan of Lala Anthony. I really don't care about this romance between her and Terry, because
it didn't play out.
Well, it did. Well, it definitely didn't play out in this episode. Again, you've seen a couple other episodes, so you would know what happens next. But I just want to say, he was obsessing about her way too much in this episode. I was like, I mean, we've seen Lala in Power. Yeah, Lala is a nice looking woman, but she's all over the place with some of these characters. So I'm curious to see what happens. Obviously, one thing we didn't really touch on when the episode started, it showed what was happening in 2005. The older version of Terry sitting down to eat with his boys. Then he gets arrested, so he's going to have he's going to reunite with his brother in jail, so to speak. So I'm curious to see how the season will end, because I'm assuming it's going to jump around again, back into 2005, so on and so forth. But I'm very curious to see how it ends, because of how it started. But overall, I thought it was a great episode. I thought the music in the episode was on point. That music at the very end, Ready or Not, when Silas woke up, man, that was awesome. Like I said, the production values, everything on the show was great. So they got me hooked, and I'm looking forward to seeing what happens from here on out. But excellent job on the first episode. Let's hope it gets better from here on out.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the music is always on point. Also, they do a great job with that. Dana, was you about to say something?
No, I was gonna just completely agree. I got excited when you mentioned Lamar because Lamar is MVP of the show.
Oh yeah,
Absolutely.
we're about to get right into that in a sec. So, quick reminder to the people: if you're enjoying this conversation, please do leave your comments. Let us know your thoughts on anything we mentioned so far. And hit that subscribe button too. Hit the like, hit the subscribe. It's very important. We want to do more of this for more shows, but we can only do that if you support the content and support the channels. So please do so. So let's end off with a conversation about Lamar then. So he is back. A lot of people were kind of, despite the fact that he's the bad guy in this, a lot of people were gutted by the fact that he was shot and it appeared that he was killed at the end of season 1, and now, after waiting so long, because a lot of people were thinking, how are they going to be able to top that now that Lamar's gone? Who could they have to top this character? Now, we see this episode and he is back and he wakes up at the end. So that raises the question now, how will Lamar being alive affect the outcome of this season? How is it going to affect the storylines that we've seen set up in this episode? And just one of the things that I observed, before I get to you both, I observed the fact that there was that scene where Meech is trying to kind of unify people in the streets so that he can sell the drugs and be more appealing to K9. And he actually brings some of the people from I believe it was from Lamar's side of town of the city to his store or the base or whatever, and they have this face off. They even have a fight in the store and everything, but then they have a face off and they have a discussion about working together. So I'm wondering how Lamar being alive is going to affect that now, because he might go back to those old crew, his old friends, his old crew and stuff, and cause some trouble with Meech. So that's pretty interesting. But also the fact that he is in hospital means that he might be under government watch, so it might kind of restrict what he can do. So it's going to be interesting to see where they take the whole thing. But Dana, your mic is unmuted right now, so I want to hear your thoughts on Lamar and how you think it's going to affect this show. And I know that you've seen a little more than we have, so do be careful, but also
I will be careful. I will say this: Lamar again? Thanos let nothing stop him. Do you think that he cares about the police and arresting him? Even if he may not physically be able to get out, I think Lamar still has the communications and the channels open to have other people do his bidding for him. And I do feel that fear is stronger than anything else. And once other people in his crew realize he is not dead, that whole situation with teaming up with the Flitteries could easily be put out. I think they fear him more than anything. Remember, we had that whole thing, is it better to be feared than to be loved? And right now, it seems that the Flitteries kind of come at you more with love situation than as opposed to fear. Usually if you want to get rid of the other guy, you just have a big shootout, you call it a day. Oh, they're dead. Yay. But with this, it's like, I want to welcome you with open embrace, and that's cool. But is love going to stop that bullet from hitting me? So I think that Lamar and his tactics are going to pull away whatever kind of unity that may have happened or may will happen in the future from happening. Also, I believe that I Lamar is again is someone who when he's focused, and I kind of feel that he knows who shot him. He knows what went on in the previous season, and he's going to enact his revenge again. So how that ends up setting up business in the future, it may end up being a repetitive situation where Lamar is back. We always have to look out, have the eyes in our back of our heads just to make sure that someone isn't peeking in the corner. If it's not Lamar itself, then whether or not it's Pookie in them who's acting on behalf of Lamar. So, yeah.
Yeah, interesting take. I guess he's, it's not going to be like Lamar is awake now, he's back on the streets. So there is definitely going to be a process, I think, to him actually getting back into the action. So the fact that you said, others might act on his behalf and things like that, that definitely makes sense a little bit, and he might operate from the shadows a little bit. But yeah, great thoughts there. So I definitely want to hear what Mr. Richard Bailey Jr. has to say. So go ahead and let us know what you think, Rich.
Great takeaways and great question. What I really like about this is that, as you alluded to, Gary, you said that Detective Bryant, obviously, they have him under watch, and no one knows that he is alive except for, Detective Bryant and the other detective. They know this. But what I find interesting is that this first episode once again reiterated how obsessed Detective Bryant is at getting his hands on Meech. That's why I think he will be willing to let things slide and let Lamar does whatever he needs to do, just so long as he gets to Meech, because that's who he wants to take down now. And again, as was said in Dana's interview so well, is that you understand why Detective Bryant is against Meech, because his partner got killed. We saw that last season. We also saw that the other individual that he gave up and said, this is somebody that y'all need to look into, B-Mickie killed that guy. So it makes perfect sense that the code of how you're supposed to act has been broken, and now you want to get revenge. So that's why I said I believe he will be willing to let Lamar operate any way he wants to operate, just so long as he gets the opportunity to take down Meech. The other point I want to also mention is why this is such a smart thing to bring this character back into the fold is because, as I said earlier, they introduce you to K9. What more exciting storytelling can you have where both Terry and Meech have to take down K9 and Lamar? I think that is an excellent way to set this up. And again, because Terry is out now, he told Meech, I'm not coming back in. But obviously, there's going to be something that gets him to get back involved. And again, I want to see how that plays out as well. But I just think there's a lot of possibilities. And yes, this actor did a fantastic job as Lamar Silas last season. So I feel like, yes, he had to return, and it made sense for him to return. So what it means, I do agree with what Dana said. A lot of stuff is going to be up in the air as far as fear once people find out. And that's what I also want to see. The moment when people find out that he's back, especially Meech, because he thinks that this guy is dead. So I can't wait to see how all of this plays out, for sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. And like I agree with what you said. Like the fact that there's now two kind of main villains, it looks like, with K9 and Lamar. Like that's super interesting to me, because even in Power, it's like you usually have like one main like bad guy or crazy guy or whatever. So like, the fact that you've got K9 and Lamar now to like for Meech and T to deal with, like that's, first of all, that makes the show vastly more interesting, and second of all, it gives the characters a reason to kind of unite again, because they're gonna have to be together to kind of deal with all of this stuff that's facing them. So I'm very excited to see where they take all of that storytelling. And one more thing I wanted to mention as well is I'm curious to know if we're gonna see the introduction of and maybe this has been answered already, but I'm curious to see if we can see the introduction of the BMF empire moving to Atlanta or spreading their wings to Atlanta, because I see in the promo material they have the Atlanta sign. So I'm guessing there's going to be something about that, in this season. And if that happens, then that opens up a lot of possibilities to where the story can go also. Because, there could be a situation where things are too hot for them in Detroit and they have to move away or something like that. So go ahead, Rich.
I just going to say that 100% will happen, because that from how the episode started. When you saw that Meech was in Vegas, and then the guy tells him, if you ever need to come down to Atlanta, there's a lot of opportunities here. So that's why I say that's they're going to 100%. That will definitely happen at some point this season. I don't know which episode, because again, I haven't seen anything outside of the first episode. Maybe Dana knows. You never know, but we'll find out soon for sure.
Yeah, because in real life, I think one of the reasons they went to Atlanta as well was because things got too crazy in Detroit. So, that could be a cause of, K9 and Lamar both being there. Like they might be like, you know what, let's get out of here, man. So that's going to be interesting. But Dana, did you have any last thoughts on that subject before we end off?
What, with the Atlanta situation?
Atlanta or Lamar? Yeah.
Lamar, again, someone I look forward to. The fact that we now have, and I don't, with the fact that we have two villains is really interesting. And what is really great is that, when there's too many villains or too many characters in general, you can kind of lose focus. And from what I've seen, that is not the case at all. You just have to sit back and see how everything plays out. But I think that this season seems to be much tighter, to be much more focused. And I just loved everything that they've done with it so far compared to the first season. Not to say the first season was bad or anything. I just, how certain seasons speak to you. So far what I've seen in season 2, I just was really like right on it. Like, oh my God, that happened. What? That happened. And I can't tell you what happened, but it happened. So I like that aspect. And the fact that if there was to ever go to Atlanta, that opens up a whole bunch of possibilities, that opens up new characters, new connections, new enemies. And, no one is going to have, when you're in that business, you're not going to remain, enemy free, no matter where you go. So it's interesting to know if that does happen, how does that differ than, we'll say, in Atlanta compared to Detroit or any other state that you go into. So overall, I know that they did create a kind of an empire, what we've seen in the docuseries. So we do know some things that end up happening and how that progresses. And I look forward to adding in that dynamic if it does come into fruition this season, or maybe it's in season 3. I don't feel that this is a limited series situation. So it has time to go to Atlanta, go to Detroit, go to New York, go to, I don't know, Timbuktu if it wants to. It has that time in order to spread its wings out. And I think it's going to be pretty interesting either way to see that dynamic and to see the culture, because, Detroit itself is different than, say, Atlanta, which is different than New York City. So overall, I like to see this soon to be mashup. It's like a power universe kind of all in one. If there was to be ever a big crossover episode, we would probably get that in this series in terms of all of the different states and how everyone interacts culturally.
Exactly. And I'm glad you said that, because I don't know if this is an official announcement yet, but I saw on 50 Cent's Instagram, he was teasing, or, he was talking about the possibility of BMF spin-offs. Now, this BMF story, the real life story, is so big that they could totally do that. They could do like a BMF in LA, BMF in New York, because BMF really was spread out all around the country. They covered a lot of ground. So they could totally do a spin-off. And I'm wondering if, the fact that there's so many characters now, with, the K9s, the Lamars, they could do a Lamar series or something, if they wanted to. Like, that would be interesting, So yeah, they could take this in so many ways, and there's so many interesting characters that they've introduced. So I'm excited. This is definitely, like another universe that, is similar to Power, and this could be bigger than Power, the way it's being presented. So very interesting there. But yeah, that is all we have time for with this review today. But I just wanted to let the people know that we won't be covering this every week like we do Power. This is just a review we decided to do because we love BMF so much, and we all saw the first episode and everything. But I will say that if there's enough support, enough interest, we will cover this season again. We might do another discussion or some sort, in the future. But this is just something we wanted to give the people because I know people were asking for it. And shouts to Inga as well, who's one of the supporters on the main channel. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this review. We may be back again to talk about BMF, but there's also some other wonderful TV shows coming out very soon that we are also going to be covering. So do look out for all of that content too. Any shout outs or anything before we leave, Dana?
Oh no, just shout out to everyone who listens, who subscribes to the multiple channels that we have. And we are building, and we're going to have more content available. And Happy New Year to everyone.
Happy New Year indeed. And how about you, Richard? Any final thoughts or shout outs?
Shout out to all the supporters that have been supporting the coalition last year, the year prior. Yeah, just thank you for your continued support over on the main channel, and hopefully you also will consider subscribing to this entertainment channel because, like I said, a lot of the shows we don't typically cover, we will be covering on this channel. But if you do want to see Snowfall and Powercast, those will remain on the main channel. But yeah, stuff like this will probably be on this channel. So I would definitely encourage you all to definitely subscribe to the entertainment channel. And we look forward to talking with you more as the year goes on and reviewing a lot more shows and movies, etc.
Yeah, please do subscribe, everyone. And yeah, we'll see you guys in a future review maybe. But for now, take care of yourselves. Happy New Year and have a great week, everyone. Peace out.